Welcome to the Property Hustle podcast, where we do real talk about owning, renting, and investing in Nigeria's real estate in such a way that it makes it possible to make smarter and safer decisions. And here is properties, it's housing, and the essence of this is so that people get to have more knowledge and information about what is happening around them, about how to maybe move from being a tenant to a landlord to an investor and stuff. So that is what the Property Hustle podcast is all about. And today I want to talk about the difficulty that people face in renting accommodation in Abuja, especially, although generally in Nigeria, but specifically in Abuja. Because what I've observed is that right now it's not really that easy to rent an accommodation in this Abuja. You just imagine somebody wants to rent an accommodation and he's taking like months, like weeks, and all that. You'll be going from one place to another to try to look for the accommodation, and at the end of the day, you are back to square zero again. Sometimes you have issues with agents taking you to a house that is not even, maybe should I say, worth living in, or that is not completed. Sometimes to a place that is not even existing. They'll tell you come and pay inspection fee and all of that. So, and most of the time when you look at these things, it's about the delays that comes with it. It's about the cost that comes with it. It's about the time, the psychological trauma that you face as a tenant, as somebody who wants to rent an accommodation. Now, like I said before, there's a statistic that said 75% of Nigerians, especially those living in the urban centers like Abuja, like Lagos, and all these places, are renters. That is, there are people that rent an accommodation to live. They don't own a house of their own. And so it becomes a very, very important topic to discuss. Because if you have a situation whereby a majority of the people are using a service and that service now becomes so difficult or is getting so difficult, then it becomes a problem. So today I want to talk about those, like just expressing my mind on some of those challenges that you face as a tenant in trying to rent an accommodation, starting from the inspection that you go for, starting from fake listings, right? Which is, of course, connected to the inspection, because sometimes you go online, you want to find an accommodation to live. Maybe you just came to town, you just came to Abuja, you relocated, and you're looking for a place to stay. And the first place that in your mind in this age and generation that we are now is you think of the internet. And so you go online and you go to try to search for this accommodation. And you realize that there are lots of listings, but for somebody that maybe have even had an experience before, you be scared of who to contact, because the experience that a lot of people have had over time is you see these listings, you contact them. Sometimes they'll tell you it's available just so that maybe the agents can get their inspection fee, and you go for the inspection, you realize that what they're showing you is even different from what is being advertised. So you have these fake listings as an issue that is very, very common in the industry. And then again, even the inspection itself. I mean, I've seen clips and videos of maybe people doing content that they talk about how agents will take them and they are just following them, sometimes into the ocean. And, it's funny in terms of when you do it as a content. But how about the feeling? How about the people that are actually going through these things? Is it funny to them? So it is an experience that is not very, very palatable. And that is what I'm just trying to kind of express. Because at the end of the day, you are doing this inspection, endless inspections. You go from this agent to the next agent to the next agent, and from this property to the next property. For instance, you remember the other day we tried to get this accommodation for someone, and we went to one location. We met an agent. We had to go with the agent, even climb a hill. We paid for the agency fee, and at the end of the day, what we saw wasn't really what we wanted. But before we went there, the communication, the discussions, that what the agent was telling us, it was something that was kind of interesting and hopeful that what we were going to see is something we would like. And so we got there, it wasn't. And we got to another place like that. And, at the end of the day, you even have this case of the accommodation not really being like the agent having a direct relationship with the landlord, right? So you have this chain of relationship that is there, or chain of connection that you have in the agency dealings in Abuja property rental market, where you have an agent, like you've met an agent now, you've spoken to the agent says, okay, this is the inspection fee you have to pay. You pay for this inspection fee, and you follow the agent. You realize that the agent doesn't even have a direct relationship with the landlord, what they call direct mandate. So it's not a direct mandate. So you follow the agent. The agent now has to call the agent that he saw the property on maybe on his own platform or on his social media handles before he now reposted or he copied it and then posted it somewhere. So at the end of the day, you realize even after you've paid the inspection fee, you've come for the inspection, that is when you now realize that, or they'll tell you rather that that property you actually came to look for has been taken, is no longer available. So there's no guarantee that even the inspection fee you are paying is actually going into what you are paying it for. That is, you are going to actually inspect that particular property you want to inspect. So that is what now leads them to taking you to another one, to other ones that or they think they can just take you to just to cover the inspection fee that you've paid. You understand? So those are some of these issues. And when you now look at the inspection aspect I'm talking about, you look at the fake listings, you see, from what I've said so far, you see that there's a connection. It starts from maybe fake listings, right? You have this property listed that does not exist. And so you now go for inspection, even if it's a free inspection. You will now have to talk about the time that you are going to spend to do this inspection. You have to talk about the effort, the energy that you are dissipating in doing this. And then again, your need. Because like, for instance, if you move from Lagos or from Kano, from Port Harcourt to Abuja today, what you want, the only thing you want right now is you just want a place that you can rent, you can pay for it and move your things inside and have peace of mind. Because a shelter where you live also contributes to your psychology, like to how you feel, your feelings generally. So these are some of the issues. And so when you look at this thing generally, you see that the property market, the rental market in Abuja especially, is really frustrating. Like, it's frustrating everybody. So this one I'm talking about like the tenants, what the tenant faces and all of that and all of that. But now when you now look at the side of the landlord too they are facing their own problem. Because if you go to the market now to buy building material, you see that there's a lot of problem. The cost keeps increasing every day. And so when you look at it, it's a multifaceted problem that you can't just blame one person. The landlord cannot blame the agent cannot blame landlord, tenant cannot blame landlord. So it's a very big, complex problem that we are facing in Abuja. So like I was saying, the part of the landlord, you see that if you want to build a house now, for instance, even if it's like a small, maybe a toilet, something that is maybe like 1 square meter that you're building now, when you calculate the money that you spend in building it, you realize that even the people that are building these houses are trying. It's really not easy. So you can't blame anybody, right? So the market is really frustrating. And when you now say, okay, as the landlords are stressing through this and they're trying to provide the accommodation and it's not enough, you now go into the part of the government. What is the government doing? So in the part of the government, just looks like a pure rhetoric. And at the end of the day, it's frustrating. The government, they say, is the people, and the people is the government. But when you now talk government in this sense, you're talking about maybe the leadership, but that is almost non-existent, because even when they talk about affordable housing, it's not affordable, right? You see government building houses and they call it affordable housing initiative. And at the end of the day, they're telling people to pay 50 million to buy a 1-bedroom apartment. How is that sustainable? How is that affordable? So you now have that problem. So you see that it's frustrating for everybody, the landlord, the tenants, the agents. And then the last part of this mix that I'll talk about now, you see, the agents. Like I said before, I've seen a lot of contents being made online about where agents, is taking somebody to the ocean, is taking somebody to a street like a bush, a forest, in the name of inspection and all of that. And it's funny, like I said, but the people that are facing it are actually not finding it easy. And then that is the part of the tenant I said. But now when you look at the agent that is even taking these people in terms of the content, of course, that is not the case generally, because the agents are actually the backbone of the industry. They are the connectors. They are the people that facilitate some of these deals. They are the people that meet the landlord and get the tenant to be able to get the kind of accommodation that they want. So the agents are not kind of useless in the mix. So now when you look at their own part, these people, they are also facing a lot of problems. They are facing a lot of challenges. Do you know what it takes to kind of source for a landlord? Like, know somebody that says, okay, I've built a house and come and be my agent and get it for me. So at the end of the day, it's not easy. And you now see them struggling from pillar to post. The agents, their money, that the money they make, especially the rental agents, right? The money they make is just, it's not fixed, it's not stable. And this is something that elsewhere, this is a career. This is somebody's career. Property agency, like they call them, is it property consultants elsewhere and all of that. This is a career that people choose. It's a career path. So, but in this climb, you see that the agents are just surviving. They are just barely surviving. And so they have their own problems too. So now, for somebody who is barely surviving, who only just gets maybe one or two properties listed in a month, in 2 months, how are we expecting that person to do? So at the end of the day, we have this problem of bloated agency fee that they're collecting. We have this problem of them struggling, even though they understand that maybe this property might not exist, might not be available. They just want to survive. And so they ask you to pay this inspection fee, you pay, and they take you to where they think it's available. That maybe you, that is the tenant, might like it. You, that is the tenant, might want to give it a thought on that place. So that is what now brings about their own the agency fee, because their income is not stable. They don't have the trust of the landlord. So you see, it's just few of them that get connected directly to the landlord, and the rest now, take it from the few that have got this connection, and so they just keep going. They just want to survive. So they have their own internal struggles. They have a lot of things that they are also going through that is kind of making it difficult for everybody. So if you now look at the market generally, just like I have been saying, it's very, very complex and it's frustrating everybody. It's just like everybody is just confused. You understand? Everybody is confused. And when you now combine it with the fact that the cost of housing, the cost of accommodation and everything is just rising. As the cost of material rises and everything, just imagine like a property, a house that was going for 2 million maybe last year. Today, when you go to that same house to rent, now they're telling you 5 million. What happened? What has changed? Right? What has changed? It's the same house. It's not like they rebuilt it. You get? So if we want to push blame, we can easily just blame people. We can easily blame, for instance, in this case now, we can easily blame the landlord and say, okay, the landlord just indiscriminately increased the cost of this accommodation. But then on the part of the landlord too, the landlord is also considering his own survival, because the amount you bought rice, for instance, last year is not the same amount you buy this year, or you bought last 2 years is not the same amount you buy this year. So the landlord is also considering their own survival. So you now look at this thing is a very complex situation. And then again, the developers, because as we're talking about the housing problem, everything, I think it boils down to providing more housing. Because if there is more, it's just it boils down to the law of demand and supply. If the supply is small, the demand reduces, because people have what they want. And so once the demand reduces, the cost reduces as well. So it's just that principle of demand and supply. And so it's just because there's no enough supply. And so we go back to the developers. The developers, how are they helping in this situation? So these are some of the questions. Because, for instance, you go to a place that like for some of us that are professionals that are in the industry, we know that maybe this particular property, it can be developed with 100 million, right? And let's say for the plot, you can buy that plot, maybe the portion that particular house was built for you. Because usually in development, it's not like it's just one plot, they will develop one building and just sell to one person. No. Usually, even if it's a small, moderate size of plots, it tends to do like terraces and block of flats and all that. So if you calculate the percentage of your own portion in terms of the cost of the land itself, you see maybe it costs like 50 million. Let's say 50 million, right? At the end of the day, 50 million plus 100 million, that is like 150 million, isn't it? But you see that the developers want to sell this same property. They want to sell it for 500 million, or they are selling it for 500 million. Now, if you calculate the percentage gain in this now, the cost of development, 100 million, the cost of the plot, 50 million, and they are selling for 500, 400, 350 million. So the percentage of gain is even more than the cost of the entire package. So, and by principle, I think the standard that it's supposed to be that when you develop, you take in like 30% of the profit. Sometimes 25%, 30%. That should be fair. And generally, in any business that you do, when you have that kind of profit, at least you can keep doing. But now that also complicates the whole mix, because if you are developing and you are putting this money that is very, very expensive like that, who are the people that are going to buy these properties? And when these people buy these properties, who are the people that are going to rent these properties? So you now have a situation whereby, even though we say there is less supply of this housing, there is still more supply of it. But the problem is that the houses that are available and the people that are available to rent the houses, they don't agree. They don't tally, because the people that are available, most of the people that are available to rent these houses, they don't have the kind of money to pay for the kind of houses that are available. So when you go to places like Asokoro, like Guzape, all these posh places, all these different places, even in the outskirts, you see that there are properties that are available, but there are people that want to rent properties, but they don't have the kind of property that they want to rent. Meanwhile, there are lots of properties are available. A lot of properties are available, but they cannot rent it. And so it's a very complicated situation, because if we say the houses are not much, and in some other areas you are still seeing a lot of houses. So what do we do? What is the situation? This kind of looks like ranting and stuff, but this is the situation we find ourselves in. So what do you think? Like, let me hear your thoughts in this matter. What do you think? Just drop something in the comment. Let me hear your thoughts. Like, what's the solution to this whole mix, this whole frustration that everybody is feeling? And it's not stopping anytime soon, because the cost keeps increasing, because the stress keeps increasing, because the headache and the whole hustle that everybody goes through to rent and accommodation, to have a roof over their heads, which, by the way, is supposed to be one of the fundamental human rights, that everybody should be sheltered, properly sheltered. So, but this is the situation. So what do you think? Let me hear from you. And like I said, this is the first episode of the series, and more episodes are to come your way. And I would implore you to follow me on this, and like this post and share it to your friends, your connections, and let's keep the conversation going. That maybe somehow, someday, very, very soon, maybe we'll have solution. We'll be able to kind of come to a point where it becomes very easier for everybody to have a roof over their heads without breaking the bank. And so with this, I said we come to the end of this episode. This is the Property Hustle podcast, and I implore you to stick around, follow me, and let's continue the conversation from here. Thank you very much, and have a very great day ahead. Love you.